All right, welcome everyone. My name is Remy Verstrate, and I'm part of the team here at Lightcast. With me is Morgan Halpert. He's going to be co-presenting today, and I'm just giving it another few seconds while everybody logs in here and gets connected. Thank you for joining us. Today's webinar is on identifying and aligning with industry partners. So we're grateful for your time. And I'm going to go ahead and do some housekeeping items as well while folks continue to log in. First thing I wanted to mention is you should have a questions option in your menu panel over to the right of your screen. Do feel free to use that at any time during today's session. Also be aware that there is no chat function, so the only way you can communicate with us is by using the questions box. So I encourage you to use it as a question and or comment box. If you have thoughts or feedback or anything at any time, please do feel free to use that. Those will come through. If we have time at the end, we will also do a little bit of Q&A, and obviously we'll be pulling from there for those. Also wanted to assure everybody that recording is in progress, and we are planning to send a copy of this recording to everyone tomorrow. So you should get an email in your inbox. Be on the lookout for that. And then I also just wanted to note, because the first half of the presentation, I'll be sharing a number of slides that have different charts and graphs from all corners of the internet. And I'll be moving through them somewhat quickly. And so I wanted to assure you that the sources for all of that information are included in the speaker notes, which you won't be able to see during the presentation, but they are included in the slide deck. So when we share that afterwards, you can access those links and track things down and do further reading to your heart's content. Here's our roadmap. I'm going to start with just providing a little bit of context. I'm going to run through three trends just to be aware of that are relevant to this topic of higher education and industry partnerships, and then a brief summary of what are the actual data points that you would need in order to kind of act on that information. And then I'm going to pass things to Morgan for kind of the main event, where he's going to actually demonstrate and show how to use Lightcast tools and data to put those things into action. So start with context, then we'll get to application. And so I'm going to start like this. This will be kind of our format. There will be three trends. The first one is demographic trends, and then we'll kind of look at what that means for educators and for employers. And so the framework to have in mind as we're going through this is, I think sometimes we can get into these silos where educators are just thinking about what we're facing in the higher education space. Employers are just thinking about things through their own lens, but really we are all in this together. The economy is an ecosystem, and so each of these trends actually has implications for both sides. And the more we recognize that, the better we'll be able to identify those opportunities for partnerships. So first slide here. This is from Penn Wharton's budget model website, and this is essentially highlighting this concept of a replacement rate, which is essentially the total fertility rate that any population of people needs to maintain in order to kind of sustain themselves. So essentially each two people need to make two more people in order to replace themselves. So it's kind of a common sense metric in some sense. But as you can see in this chart, since about 2009, we've been below that 2.1 fertility rate that is needed. And I realize that sounds a little bit abstract perhaps, but as you can see here, they explain a number above 2.1 is associated with a growing population. Anything lower than 2.1 indicates population decline. And just for context, note that individuals born in 2006, they'd probably be entering college around 2004. So that's just to highlight that most of that downward slope, we haven't really felt that yet. This is still something, a demographic trend that that is a little bit in the future for us. And this is what that actually means. So you can see younger age at the bottom, older age at the top, but only showing school age population. Again, this is just in the United States, and it's not factoring in immigration. But essentially the traditional college age individuals at the top there, you can see that as we work our way down to younger and younger cohorts, the population actually gets smaller and smaller, meaning that just mathematically, there's not actually enough young people to match the numbers of folks that we currently have in that traditional college age bracket. And since I mentioned immigration, that can and does make a difference for the United States, it likely will. But it's worth noting that this is from the World Bank. Most countries in the world have a similar looking fertility rate pattern. And so in terms of a long-term sustainable solution, it's not likely to come from immigration either in the long run. So that's all I'm going to say about demographic data, but I do want to note Lightcast has now put out 3 reports on this topic. And so if you do want more, there will be a link to that in the slide deck that we send out tomorrow, and you can read all about it. So there's much more where that comes from. But for our purposes, it's just to note that for educators, this likely means that there will be less traditional college age students kind of coming up through the high school pipeline, if you will, which might make it a prudent time to focus more on adult learners, many of whom are already working. So that's kind of the tie-in with this idea of industry partnerships, is a lot of those prospective adult learners are workers and they're already employed. And so it makes sense to partner with those employers if you're looking to engage those learners. But for employers, they're facing the same thing. And so less young people for them, in their mindset, that would mean less young people entering the workforce, which creates a greater need for them to maximize their existing workforce, to think less in terms of, well, I'll just hire new young people to fill these roles, and forces them to think more in terms of, okay, how can I reskill or upskill the people I already have for the roles that I'm trying to fill, which leads to our next trend, which is the rapid rate of skill change. This is a report back when Lightcast was still called MZ Burning Glass. This is a report that we did in collaboration with the Burning Glass Institute and Boston Consulting Group, essentially just trying to quantify this rapid skill change. So based on employer job postings. So it was looking from 2016 to 2021. And as you can see, found that for the top 20 requested skills, the average rate of disruption across all jobs, all industries, was about 37% of those top 20 skills had changed just since 2016. In the most disrupted jobs, it went as high as 76%. And even in the least disrupted jobs, it was still about 13% turnover in the top 20 skills that were asked for. Another illustration of that, this comes from the CFO survey, which is run by the Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond in Atlanta in partnership with Duke. I could have highlighted this better for you, but essentially what we're looking at here is, so the survey question to CFOs at 302 firms was compared to the beginning of this year, and this is 2022, how difficult is it now to hire the following types of workers? And if you look down, skip down to the harder category, the number one response for it being harder to hire was high-skilled type workers, followed by mid-skilled, followed by low-skilled. So again, illustrating the reality of this this kind of talent crunch. And this from McKinsey highlights that they tend to think of it in terms of a skill gap. So McKinsey's survey question was, when do you anticipate skill gaps occurring within your organization? And this was a global survey, so not just the United States. And as you can see, the top response was now. It's already happening. And 87% said either now or within the next 2 years. And then this is from Manpower Group, which is one of the largest staffing companies in the world. And I thought this was pretty striking, again, illustration of the global trend, them being at an all-time high, at least in terms of their survey, in terms of the percentage of employers reporting that they're having difficulty finding the people that they need. And specifically, you can see it says there, with the right blend of technical skills and human strengths. So rapid rate of skill change for educators, what does it mean? It illustrates this need to align curriculum with the evolving needs of lifelong learners, and in particular, I think I missed a word there, but I meant to say the specifically the skill needs. You saw that employers think of this in terms of a skills gap, and so that's kind of the need, is to align curriculum, specifically taught skills that match those sought skills that employers are looking for, which may be sub-degree credentials. And then on the employer side, again, flip side of the same coin, there's a need for them to provide their own workforce with lifelong learning, upskilling, and reskilling opportunities. And of course, the question is, where's that going to come from? There's another McKinsey article that I did not include in here, where part of that survey was companies said that less than half of them were reported being confident in their own ability to essentially design a curriculum to meet these needs. And that just stood out to me because, again, what would be the strength of colleges and universities is that curriculum design, instructional design, and so it really seems like there's an opportunity for partnership there. And then final one is worker values and preferences. Even if educators and employers agree that we should partner and we should develop programs, at the end of the day, it's the individuals who are going to be choosing to enroll and choosing to actually invest themselves, their time and potentially their money in that learning. So it does matter what they're interested in. This is a McKinsey survey where they asked from people who left their job from April 2021 to April of this year, what was your top reason for quitting? And the number one response, even more so than lack of compensation or lack of meaningful work, was a lack of career development and advancement. So there's this clear trend of workers really placing a strong priority on the ability to continue to learn and grow even after they're in the workforce. This is from Strata Education Network's Consumer Insight Viewpoint Survey project that's been ongoing for years now. And what I wanted to highlight here is this survey question was, if an employer offered support, the statement that they gave to folks was, if an employer offered support for my ongoing education and career development, I would be more likely to accept a job offer or to remain employed with this employer. And the two green shaded bars are the agree and strongly agree. And as you can see, the vast majority of individuals agreed with that statement. And then I wanted to highlight this. I thought this was really interesting. It's also from Strata. And this is where they compared, because we all know one of the things you have to be aware of with survey-based data is what somebody says they're going to do and what they actually do aren't always exactly the same. But because Strata's been doing this for so long, they were able to do a recontact survey where they followed up with people to see what they actually did. Did they enroll in education or not? And what I wanted to call out here, there's a lot that could be said about the statistics in this chart. But you can see that the dark blue bars are the percentage of folks who actually enrolled. Light blue is they expressed interest. Dark blue is did they actually enroll within this time frame. And the two highest percentages were for people who experienced a job change, where the job change was they were either promoted or they voluntarily changed jobs. So these are folks who are in the workforce and they've either been promoted within their role, so they're working and they've just moved up, or they made a voluntary job change, which means they're working, they're successful in their role, they're able to get a new job. And you might be tempted to think, well, now that they have the job, they won't be interested in further education. And according to this, it seems to be the opposite. And if you watch the webinar where Strata sort of talks about this research, they theorize that it may be that these individuals, they have a sense of confidence, they have a sense of agency in their own abilities. And it may be that if they're promoted into a new role, now suddenly they feel the need, I need more education to be able to perform the way I'd like to in this role. So whatever the underlying reasons may be, the trend we see is that it's people who are employed, who are working and moving up within their organizations are actually more likely to enroll than some of these other categories, which obviously has implications when we're talking about industry partnerships. Last thing, again, focusing in on not just people who said they were interested. This is the part of the Strata survey where they were focused in on those who actually enrolled. So the sample size here is 359. Those were the number of individuals who actually enrolled. And then they asked them what were the factors most likely to influence your enrollment decision. You can see the top one was economic opportunity. Is this aligned with career progression? Then the next one was flexibility, and that's in terms of the flexibility of the program itself, which is very important to keep in mind. You know, can I do this online? Can I do it nights and weekends? Or is this something where I have to show up in a classroom during the workday? And then followed by work-based learning. So again, showing a priority on the integration of work and learning. And then you can see the remaining 3 responses there as well. So takeaways for educators, there's a clear preference from students and prospective students for education options that align with career growth and development. For employers, again, this further emphasizes the need to provide learning, growth, and development opportunities. It's important for them both to retain their workers, because we saw that if you don't provide these opportunities, they might be leaving your organization, and to retrain as well, which gets back to the upskilling and reskilling idea. So as I wrap up here, I just wanted to, this is kind of a smorgasbord of just random examples. And this is just to illustrate that there's all kinds of partnerships. I mean, partnerships can mean so many things. There's so many different kinds of institutions, different industries, different companies, and the partnerships are going to look different. So right before I pass things off to Morgan, I just want to narrow our focus a little bit and use this. I thought this was a helpful grid. This comes from Boston Consulting Group, an article they released in 2020, where they lay out the significant opportunities for higher ed providers to partner with industry. And you can think of it in these 3 categories: pre-skilling to enter the job market. So that's maybe what you would more traditionally think of the college or university preparing someone for that first job. But then there's these other 2 categories of upskilling to grow within a role, and then reskilling, which could be somebody at the same company switching from, say, a warehouse stocking role to, you know, trying to learn to manage the technology that runs the warehouse. It could be that kind of transition, or it could be changing an industry entirely. Somebody switching from, you know, healthcare to technology, or technology to healthcare, whatever the case may be. And those are kind of the 2 types of partnerships that we're going to be focusing on, practically speaking, for the rest of this presentation. So the practical question is, well, what's the data that we need in order to actually identify good potential partners, companies that we might be a good fit with, and to validate and demonstrate that we have alignment between the education that we're offering and the workforce needs that they have. So first is you have to understand the market. In practical terms, that translates into identifying those top employers, then getting down to the job title level so you can identify the specific roles that they're prioritizing trying to get filled, and then moving down to the level of in-demand skills, because that's that common language that's going to help translate the skills that they need and the skills that that you're teaching. But I'm getting ahead of myself, because the second part is evaluate alignment. So needing to know not just what are the skills that are in demand, but what are we teaching in our curriculum, and specifically, where are we teaching those skills so that we can be intentional and efficient in terms of exploring different ways to package curriculum and different courses into meaningful units, which again may not be a full degree. It may be less than a degree, but it's about delivering the right increment of value that makes sense for the employer and for the worker. And then, of course, getting back to the actual individuals, investing their own time in the education, you have to engage prospective learners. It helps to enable them to catalog the skills that they already have, and then based on that, help them quickly identify specific courses and credentials that align with their current career path or desired career path if they're looking at making a change. So with that, we get to move to the fun part now, where Morgan is going to demonstrate for us how to take action on some of these ideas using Lightcast data. So bear with me one moment while I transition the screen over to him. Morgan, let me know.
Thanks,
if
Remy.
you...
And I'll unmute myself. It looks like I got it over here. Thanks, Remy. Yeah. So there's a number of different ways we could apply our data towards a lot of those topics Remy was talking about. But what I want to focus in on is that rapid rate of skill change and the pressure that companies are feeling to upskill and retain their workforce, and present to you, right, how we have helped folks do this. And I want to organize around the question, how do we not only kind of like use our curriculum, but how can we also find potential partners and companies to align with? Are we already aligned? Are we not aligned? Who do we want to align with, right? So starting kind of not knowing anything about the market or who's hiring. So as many of y'all probably know, one of our major data sets is company-specific job posting data, and that tells us a lot about particular companies, what job titles they're hiring for, what skills they need, their inflow and outflow of talent. There's a lot there. To the point that many folks actually use our data to start conversations with companies who don't even know that much about themselves. And so with that set, we can query at a high level, starting from nothing, a question like, what companies are hiring the most around me in my region, and build out specific value proposition from that question to those folks. What I want to start with, though, is kind of a proposition or a topical area that I've heard some folks talking about. So, and that's basically according to our research and faculty, healthcare analytics is a growing field. But what courses and content align to the biggest need in that space, and do we have it in our catalog? Right. So that's kind of the guiding principle of where we're going today. So as you can see here, this is our the front end of our labor market analyst tool. It's called Analyst. And I'm going to start here by going into that really specific company data set. And what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to, at a really high level over the last handful of years, pull job posting data related to healthcare analytics. You can see here, right here, it is a skill within our skills library. It's not a super clearly defined occupation code or anything like that. And so I want to kind of cast a broad brush here with healthcare analytics. So any job posting that has the skill healthcare analytics in it is going to be pulled in this report, which is taking a moment. Just trying to come in and out. Here we go. Try it again. Healthcare analytics. Okay. So in the job posting data, there's a lot of metadata on the job posting. There's wage data. A lot of increasing number of folks are actually putting wage data on there. There's education and experience. We've been tracking this obviously over time, so we can see trend data. The education experience is really key for a lot of folks that we work with, right? We want to see, is this a associate's degree type job? What's the minimum education asked for? Minimum experience asked for? So bachelor degree, mid-career, healthcare analytics, that's kind of what is shaping up at a high level here. But we can also see the companies already. So these are the folks that are hiring healthcare analytics skills. We can see where those locations are, and really importantly, where I kind of want to start paring down here is in this occupational grouping. So what we can already see is there's a distinction between kind of heavy data usage and built, not usage, development, so software development, building, maybe back-end database architecture, that kind of thing, versus doing the analysis. And there's obviously crossover, but I want to be able to pair those things out when I'm talking to an employer. We have things like job titles, but I'm going to go down right here to the skills and see the types of skills that are being asked for. Okay. So in the dark blue line, those are that's the frequency with which the skill is appearing in job postings that we've queried. Our control is healthcare analytics, so no wonder it comes up in 100% of the postings. So, but these are the other top skills related to healthcare analytics we're finding in the postings: SQL, database querying, data analysis, SAS, statistics, economics, healthcare industry knowledge, Tableau. Right, so these are tightly correlated skills as well. But I want to make sure that I'm focusing in on the kind of analysis piece and not necessarily the software engineering piece. And so I'm going to go ahead and control for data analysis. So you can see here I've pulled any job posting with healthcare analytics, and I'm going to pull that it has to have data analysis. So it's probably going to limit it's going to pull my number of job postings down, so about half. And there's a lot of associated changes, obviously. Trend line actually looks a little bit more stable, which is interesting. Education split looks about the same. And the companies look mostly the same, but a little bit of shifting. So once I have that kind of at a level where I'm ready to dig in, where I see some small changes, we see R and Python popping up and some other things drop. But I'm able to look at the companies and see the scale to which they're hiring around this. So Anthem Blue Cross has 5,000 unique job postings over the last couple years. The reason I set the time frame, I wanted to capture some pre-COVID trends as well. But I want to zoom in here on United Health Group, and it's really easy for me to pick them out and see their job postings related to healthcare analytics, data analysis over the last 2 years in my region. I can see where they're hiring. I can see if they're asking for a higher proportion of bachelor degrees from their postings. That number's gone up. The experience is skewed down just slightly. So we're looking at a bachelor's, post-bachelor's certificate potentially. And I can see the type of occupations that they are looking for. Business management analyst is the highest special occupation, which makes sense. We can see the types of job titles. And the skills, right? So this is a really, even though it's fairly high level, healthcare analytics, data analysis across the US for UHG, we're seeing some really specific things about their workforce needs, skills, job titles, locations, qualifications even. And they're all related to the healthcare analytics role. So we can see here too, the light blue bar here are the skill supply that United Health Group has in this in these areas, in these skills. So you can effectively look at these as skill gaps. So this is the kind of layering on of our profile data set. So if we think about job postings as demand, profile or people data are supply. So resumes, online social profiles, workforce profiles, those kinds of things. We're able to look at those as well and parse them and layer them right here on top of United Health Group. So these are United Health Group demands and United Health Group employee skill sets mapped onto one another. And it makes all the sense in the world. They are trying to hire for skills that they don't necessarily have enough of in their workforce. Another way to understand more about United Health Group, so those are the top demanded skills they're looking for over the last so often. But what I also want to look at is maybe the, I bet United Health is one word. Yeah, there we go. I want to look at the skills that are increasingly in demand for them in the healthcare analytics space. Healthcare analytics and data analysis. So I've created the same controls, time frame, location, company, and you can see here the skills. This is surfacing the skills that are most hot, or the hottest skills. So from the beginning of this time period in June 2018 until September 22, the skill on the highest increase is from the number of job postings is actually dashboard, data science, BI tools, business case analysis. And the skills that have gone down are these here. So I think SaaS was one of the top skills, in-demand skills, but it's on the decrease. These are skills that were not in the most demand, but are on the increase, right? And so that's another slice, a unique way to look at company-specific data. So that's two ways that we can look at the skill needs of companies. And so we have a good understanding of the talent skills that UHG is looking for across their business. And we can zoom in even more to look at those individual occupations that they're hiring for, individual job titles, and map out a really specific profile of UHG in my region. And we've actually had clients that use what I just went through, maybe plus another report or two, to inform their partners on what they're messaging into the labor market as their demands. So sometimes the direct contacts at partner companies don't have this specific of data about themselves. And at the very least, it's a really great entry point to come in as almost like an advisory role to say, I see that you're looking for these things. Can you validate that with me? And it gets a conversation started that may not be able to be started, or really hard to start in another way.
Hey, Morgan. Morgan.
Yeah.
Before you continue, somebody had mentioned, is there a way for you to zoom in on your screen slightly, just so things are a little bit bigger and clearer for folks that are watching? Yeah. Thank you.
You bet. Cool. So demand side, we have a very good understanding of what UHG needs, right? But how do we connect that to us? This is where the translation of your institutional content, syllabi, courses, into the same language that United Health Group uses becomes really important, right? So let's jump into Skillabi, and I can show you what I'm talking about here. So Skillabi is essentially a structured database of curriculum. So we have, in this case, courses and programs mapped to skills, or tagged to skills, and mapped to one another. So modularized curriculum mapped to programs. So how can we connect this to UHG? So one of the main skills that they were looking for was, if I could type, population health. So I can really quickly look through my catalog, because I know what is taught where in the same language that United Health Group uses. I can see the courses that teach population health, medical care ethics, global issues in healthcare management, some context from the titles, but this advanced concepts and science of healthcare delivery. I'd be able to zoom in, see the actual text and the other skills that have been tagged, that have been surfaced and tagged. Very cool. So I can look for population health. I can look for performance management. So accounting for performance management, business analytics, industrial. But here is some HIM, healthcare informatics. So health information management, sorry. So there's another course that I found in the healthcare world that has performance management as a skill. And so I can continue to go through these from the data that I have on UHC, what they're looking for, what's increasingly in demand, what's most in gap, and start to find where that lives in my curriculum, right? And I can bring this all into a single value proposition. You're saying you need this. I can see that it's here, that you need it in this location for this job title. Here it is in our coursework. But then how do we deliver that to folks too? So there's two ways that we've had folks deliver it to their corporate partners. They've delivered it where they've done a kind of enterprise mapping. This job title is above this job title, and here's the skill gap, and here's what these middle managers need in terms of skills to upskill, and here's the 3 course certificate that we can provide to help these folks. Right? These would be partners maybe you're already working with or just want to go at a really in-depth level with. The other is a scaled execution model. So large companies will have skill needs distributed across the roles, like critical thinking, or maybe it's data analysis, or tactical business writing or something. They want that across, and so we actually have the ability to deliver that in what's called a skills matching tool, where an institution's content is uploaded, a learner comes in, enters a resume, we match them to an open job posting for the company that needs to be filled, and the curriculum that helps get them there. The kind of the holy grail of this is to be able to not only utilize our curriculum at the course and program level to map to a company, but to also map to the learner. So say we were to create a partnership with United Healthcare Group, and we were able to provide a certificate to their middle managers, and there's a lot of them. Well, with this modularized view, we can then take those programs or that certificate or that collection of courses and see what program it most aligns to, and start to put that learner on a path to completion towards their master's degree, say. You've taken these through work, you're 30% of the way towards your master's degree. It's a really nice way, or a really smart way, to not only engage and serve the company, the partner that you're working with, but also to enroll folks into master's degrees that serve their needs. So I'm going to show you kind of what this looks like in a kind of high level value proposition here. Hopefully this kind of just contextualizes, brings it together. So I've taken data directly from Analyst. I have literally hit the export button on many of the, you can see, I probably shouldn't have done this just off the cuff here, but I can take all of these visuals and download them, export reports, however I'd like to do that, right? And create a value proposition for UHG. Trends over time, bachelor's degrees, this is the data that we went through already. But then I've also connected it to these skills and the courses that I pulled up right in front of you. You need population health, performance management, and quality management. And interestingly enough, population health and quality management are in the same course, United Health Group. Your ROI in working with us is higher because you only have to buy a course for your folks, not 3 or 6 or whatever it is, right? We can start giving a ROI value proposition to tuition as a benefit money spent, which I know has been a large gap for folks to be able to articulate. And then here is the delivery mechanism piece, mapping specific courses and programs to roles against certain initiatives, and as well as the general workforce skill development. So kind of in sum, there's a lot of talk about modularizing content to build tailored offerings, pathways, other kind of buzzwordy things. But from my point of view, working with a lot of folks on these kind of building blocks of curriculum, of engaging partners, the biggest hindrance is the lack of connection between your content that you have and the world outside your campus. Without that, the great courses you have, the programs, the faculty expertise is just not articulated clearly. It's not understood by both companies and learners. And so I hope that you can see that using that as a connective tissue, moving from company-specific data to institutional data to a value proposition, shows you how, if you already have these tools from us, how we can help you do more of this work, or if you're interested in working with us against kind of these things, you can engage us on this. So yeah, it was a really fun. Remy, I'll kick it back to you. I think we'll kind of just take questions as they come in.
Yes, yeah, thank you, Morgan. Fantastic overview, and there have been a number of really good questions that have come in. So if you want to pop your questions box open and start to browse through those. While Morgan's doing that and kind of getting up to speed, I am going to launch a poll real quick, which should be popping up on your screen any moment now. And this is just an opportunity for you to indicate to us what kind of follow-up, if any, you would like. So if you've been watching and you want to know more about these ideas, or specifically if there's anything that Morgan just showed that either just went by too quick, or you'd like a more personalized explanation of what exactly that is, how it works, how you can use it at your institution, this is your chance to indicate that. So if you already work with us, we're happy to follow up with you, of course, and provide that training. And if you don't work with us, if you're new to all this, we're also happy to get on a call or an email or whatever works for you, and help you understand the things that we've been talking about and what the different options are and how they work. So I'm going to let that poll go just another 10 or 15 seconds here, so we can get everybody's participation in. And while that's wrapping up, Morgan, if you've seen anything that you want to address, feel free to jump in.
Yeah, I'm trying to kind of, there's a lot here. This is good. I'm trying to kind of create a theme here. So it seems that one of the questions is kind of like, what is a skill? How do you get them? So kind of almost do you have, where's the taxonomy come from? Is it AI driven, that kind of thing? So I'd be happy to answer that. So the skill taxonomy that we use is derived from job postings. So as companies are posting jobs online, we're obviously scraping and aggregating them, and we're using our natural language parsing, it's a machine learned algorithm to extract certain terms that are being used by companies. And we've been doing that for a long time to describe work. What's fundamentally different about Skillabi is it takes that same algorithm, that natural language process, market-driven terms, and applies it to non-labor market data, such as curriculum, or some folks have tagged CVs for professors. There's a wide range, but basically it extends that same taxonomy into dynamic taxonomy into other corners that are non-labor market related, so that it can be then related to the labor market. And that's the magic, is that skills create the relationship, and it's a living taxonomy that's changing through our parsing, our artificial intelligence algorithms, but also through, like, users of Analyst can suggest skills to us and we will review them. So there's a human element to it as well, which I think is actually really healthy. Maybe a little confusing. I don't know that I said that super well, but that's what skills are, and we do have a whole library of them that's alive. You can go to lightcast.skills.io, I think, to check out a lot of kind of like sample taggings and search for skills in our library. Maybe you put that link in the chat, Remy. I don't know if that'd be worth it.
Yeah, no, I'll grab that and send it out. That's a good suggestion. One sort of specific technical question that came in was someone had asked what posting intensity meant. I think during the analyst part, you showed that on screen. Could you explain that?
Yeah, that's one that I use in evaluating companies actually pretty common or pretty often. So posting intensity is when we're taking in all of the job postings, United Health Group might post the exact same job 10 times. And we are going to pull that down, deduplicate it into one job because that's the real demand for it, right? But that 10-to-1 ratio tells us something, especially when there's anomalies, 1-to-1 or 10-to-1. That tells us something about the type of job. Meaning, like, if they are posting it at an intensity that's 10-to-1 and everybody else in a similar similar query is only at 3-to-1 or 4-to-1, they're likely paying to have this job posted in other places. There's work going behind getting this out into the market. So that's what that is. I actually use that pretty frequently in company analysis.
Great. Yeah, thank you. There had been a question early on too about, which I think you actually answered during your presentation, about what do you do? What if a corporation is unsure of how to complete their own sort of skills inventory? And I think you sort of already spoke to that along the lines of that's where job postings data can be really valuable, is it can kind of help you just tell them, hey, you're already posting jobs. We've done the analysis to see what you're saying about the skills you need. Here's a starting place. Does this seem right to you? And you can kind of validate from there.
That's exactly right. And we can, we also have a whole other business unit that works with companies doing just that. And so, and they're using the same kind of taxonomy.
Mm-hmm. There have been a couple of questions, sort of, I think one was what entities offer the courses that Skillabi identifies. And I think that, could you sort of clarify sort of how Skillabi works and how data gets in there?
Yeah, so Skillabi is a direct to institution software platform. So we work with institutions, we ingest their curricular data that might be a bunch of Skillabi and a mapping to all the programs, and we will put that into Skillabi, and the institution will have access to their database. We don't show one institution's curriculum to another. You would see your all of your courses mapped to skills, tagged to skills, and all of your programs. So one of the views I didn't show that maybe I could really quickly is show, if I can pull it up really quick, is the program look. Let me give me a nod if you see my screen here.
I see your lovely family on your desktop.
Oh, it changed on me. Here we go. There we go. How about that?
Now I see Skillabi.
Cool. So here, I was mainly working in the courses and querying courses. I'm looking in programs here now. And so we can look for healthcare associate's degree, healthcare master's degree. We can look at all of our programs in terms of skills as well. So here's a healthcare management degree. We can see the skills within it. We can see the courses within it. And we can really easily map this, as Remy said, in a taught versus sought view to the market, right? So this is, we could pull a specific job posting, a company's job postings direct from Analyst into this, and it will take our program and relate it to the company, right? At the program level. We mostly did the work at the course level, right? So we can create our own benchmarks by companies. Not to get too far afield from where we want to go. But I'm just going to create a benchmark for United Health Group and map this healthcare management program to them. quickly, I can see on the left will be the taught skills that are found in this and the sought skills. We're a little low on metadata here, but because there's probably not that many postings for them in the just Wisconsin. But most of them are in Minnesota, beautiful Minnesota. Anyways, so, but we could take specific benchmarks here, whether it's the occupations, whether it's customizable to a specific job posting or to companies.
Great. There was also a question about if we don't have a specific skill in mind or a specific area in mind, and we just need to kind of zoom out and start with our region. We just need to know what are the in-demand growing areas in our region. Can we start there and move through the kind of workflow you did?
Absolutely. So what I did is I started with healthcare analytics. You could start with your region. So that could be your county, your MSA. I could very easily pull in the Columbus, Ohio MSA and just see what companies are hiring the most over the last 7 years. And just start there, and then look at those companies and start to zoom in one by one to see what's unique about them, or use an occupational lens. But it's very easy to say, I know the region I serve. Who should I engage with? Mm-hmm. Absolutely, major. It's a question we answer quite a bit for folks.
Fantastic, thank you. I do want to address, I don't necessarily have an answer for this, but a couple of folks have messaged in and said that they haven't been able to see the last couple of things you've shown because the thank you for your feedback poll question is still up. And I want to apologize for that. I don't know why that's happening. It shouldn't be. But I do want to assure you that when you get the recording tomorrow, you can kind of skip to the end to this part of the presentation, and the recording should have everything that Morgan just walked through. So hopefully you won't miss out there. I'm sorry for the technical issue there. Let's see. Trying to see, we have had a lot of questions, and a number of these it may be best to just follow up individually. Yeah. But Morgan, if you see anything else that you think is good for the whole group.
Yeah, I guess there's a lot of questions about degree level, so associates, mm-hmm. bachelor's, master's degrees. Mm-hmm. Yes, this is not just a modularized, like, build this 3 or 4 course certificate or badge or whatever. We do all the mappings to programs as well. So relating programs directly to companies or to the market generally. Are we teaching what the market is signaling in these occupations that we believe we should be targeting? Does the program fit that? Yes, we do that as well. I was just going through a very specific use case in this particular presentation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good clarification. Okay, well, we are just about at time, and as I said, there are more questions, and we will try to sort through those, and especially if you asked for feedback in that poll, we'll get back in touch with you. There is, right when this webinar ends, you will get one other totally optional poll that is sort of just a request for general feedback. So I encourage you to, if you have a moment, leave comments there, anything we could have done different or better, or if you have any questions that we didn't get to here, you can leave that there, and that'll help us know how to follow up with you effectively as well. So thank you so much for spending this time with us on a Thursday, and hope you all have a great Friday tomorrow and a good weekend. And thank you, Morgan, for your time as well. And we'll see you next time.
See y'all.
Bye, everyone.